Good afternoon and welcome back to Bold TV. My name is David Grasso, and this segment is brought to you by Engineered Tax Services, where engineering and accounting come together. Joining us via Skype is the CEO and founder of Engineered Tax Services, Julio Gonzalez. Welcome back, Julio.
Thanks for having me, David. Good to see you.
Always great to see you. Let's get right to it. ProPublica has obtained some of President Trump's tax documents, revealing that he reported vastly different profits and occupancy figures for two of his Manhattan buildings. The buildings appeared more profitable to his lenders and then less profitable to tax authorities. So, what do you think about this, Julio?
Well, I think when you borrow money, you obviously give them financial statements for book purposes and then tax returns for tax purposes. And those things are always going to be different in terms of occupancy and financial reporting because they're just different reporting methods. And of course, the banks typically get both, so they would have both. And if there were any questions or any reconciliations between the two, I think they would certainly ask those at any time. So, because when you're borrowing from a bank, you have to give them everything. You have to give them almost your firstborn and everything else. So, you know, they certainly will have both, and then they'll have to reconcile both and have a lot of questions. And obviously, if there's any concerns, the banks are going to bring that up.
So that's an interesting point. So this doesn't necessarily point to fraud because the banks get a very large file, including what was submitted to the government, et cetera, et cetera.
Exactly. We have to give them the financial statements for book purposes and the reporting for book purposes. And then obviously, book to tax is a lot different because, with our tax code, obviously there's certain things you do for financial reporting purposes on the book side that you don't do on the tax side. And the tax side, obviously, revenues and expenses changes based on different methods of
So you see
reporting.
this all the time with your clientele then, Julio?
Oh yeah, the reporting is going to be different all the time between both. That's why you have to get both as a bank, right? You have to get the financial statements, the tax returns, you have to reconcile those. Certainly the people on the other side have expertise in doing that and they don't want to put the money at risk. So that's why they make sure they're getting both. And then you have to sign off that the tax return you're giving them is the one you gave to the IRS. And then you also have to sign a form where they go to the IRS and confirm that and get those tax returns, verifying that the ones you submitted to the bank are the ones that were submitted to the IRS as well.
Okay, a paper trail. Now let's talk about politics. There's a whistleblower who alleges possible misconduct in the IRS's mandatory program of auditing presidents and vice presidents. So do you think there is any validity to this person's claims?
Yeah, that's hard to believe because the IRS is so structured and there's so many different divisions that oversee each other and just things just don't get through like that in the IRS. And when you're a big business, the IRS lives in your building. So you have the agents there, then you have the people back at the federal office, and you have the agents there and the officers, and everything has a process. Everything goes through computers. I mean, could there ever be fraud? I mean, there would have to be so much collaboration between different officers and agents that it would have to be this mass effort, and I would think that wouldn't really happen.
So let's talk about this. President Trump's taxes have been in the news ever since he was a candidate, and now he's, going up for re-election now. Do you feel like this will continue to be an issue, or is the public finally going to get full access to the president's taxes soon?
Well, they're certainly battling it out in court. And, from President Trump's perspective, I think that's his trademark, right? Whatever is in those tax returns is the secret sauce to why he's been so successful in real estate. And probably his trademark is copyright on how he does tax credits associated with real estate and how he does it better than anyone else in terms of, generating certain tax advantages and operating real estate. And I'm sure that he wants to protect that for his, next generation of family that will oversee those businesses. So, I think he wants to probably protect that. I'm sure people want to see that. And so it sounds like that's being battled out in the courts. And we'll see how that turns out.
Yeah, because that's an interesting theory. Most of the time you hear from the media that he's trying to hide the fact that he didn't pay enough in taxes, or two, that his net worth is much lower than he claims it is. This is an alternative theory that I've never heard, Julio.
Well, I just think for him that being one of the biggest real estate developers in the country, he's probably taken advantage of certain tax credits, whether it's historic tax credits, cost segregation, other tips and things of that nature that he probably does better than anyone else, and that's why he's probably been so successful. And I just think for his standpoint, he doesn't want that information to go to his competition to protect his generation of real estate development that's going to be passed on through his sons and grandsons. So that would be my take on it, and that's probably why I would think he wouldn't want to, show that and show why he maybe did something at a better way or better advantage than people take advantage of.
So tell me, Julio, do you think we are going to get access to Trump's tax returns? Will it come out to light? Because, we're seeing New York State, California, et cetera, et cetera. There's so many lawsuits pending that are opening up, the possibility of looking at his tax returns.
Well, with court cases, if you think about it, and especially court cases like this, it would take years. So, will it be an issue after 2021, 2022, when it would ultimately go to a Supreme Court, and work its way up to that process? It just seems to me like likely not, because, in our judiciary system, it just takes a lot of time. And by that time, things have probably moved on.
Well, Julio, thank you. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us, and we look forward to talking to you soon.
David, great talking to you.
Thanks. Thank you all for watching. Have a great day.